Good day everyone, Loki here. So, Lost Ark just came out over here in the West, and it is doing rather well as it turns out. It has actually gotten to be the second most popular game as far as concurrent players go on Steam in history, with over 1.3 million players at the same time, which means it actually is more popular at its peak than CSGO or Dota has ever been, which is kind of mental to think about. But here we are. I guess that just shows the power that Amazon streamer advertising marketing dollars can do for you. It is not all marketing craziness, of course. It is actually a really fun, enjoyable game, if in my vision a little bit more niche than it is currently enjoyed by. But it is a really fun game, and I've personally been enjoying it as well. I just got my first level 50 character as well, which I have chosen to be the Shadow Hunter. I keep thinking Demon Hunter, but it's not a Demon Hunter, it's a Shadow Hunter, and I have really been enjoying it. It's like this nice mix between a melee and a ranged character, but a little bit more squishy than I would prefer. And there's also a couple of melee animation locks, which melee animation locks while you're trying to not die, and especially once you get further into the game and you start to do raids where you cannot use potions, is a little spooky. But actually, that brings me to one of the first things I want to talk about, which is how to enjoy the game. And I'm not saying that you are not allowed to enjoy the game the way that you are. That's actually what I'm trying to say. You should enjoy the game the way that you want to play. There is a whole lot of pressure being put out there, especially by large streamers, and also just in general by the player base as far as I've seen, where a lot of people are trying to rush themselves from level 1 to 50 as soon as possible. And everyone is giving each other not really as much as guides, but as a kind of speed run tip, which I don't think the majority of the players probably should play that way. There have been plenty of streamers who actually on stream have talked about how boring the level 1 to 50 experience is, and especially when you focus on just getting to level 50 and you just do quests for 12 hours in a row, it does get a little monotonous. But there are a lot of things that you can actually do in the game. There is Makoko seeds, there's little secret hidden areas, there's all kinds of quests. Starting at level 20, there's a life skilling system. There's also just in general all kinds of currencies that slowly open up as you get further into the world, which you do randomly get by, for example, gathering, or do randomly get while you're doing things out into the world. And there's also map completion. For every single map or every single continent that you get to, you essentially can do all kinds of little tasks and all kinds of little stories, as well as just kill monsters so you get items so that you can collect them and work on that. And you get a lot of good rewards for those as well. And it seems like a lot of people are kind of neglecting those because getting to level 50 is like this big goal, and then you get your dailies and your weeklies. And while getting your dailies and your weeklies is obviously very exciting, and it is nice to get your dailies rolling on at least one character, I feel like a lot of people are feeling this weird pressure to, as though every single daily that they miss right now, they're never gonna catch up with the general player base, which, you're not gonna catch up with the hardcore grinders that day one of the early access got themselves to level 50, but you shouldn't be worried about being on their item level anyway. I don't think the majority of the player base is playing the way that those people are playing, and you shouldn't worry about playing like that anyway. Having said that, obviously if that is the only way that you can enjoy the game, and you think that speedrunning the game as much as possible and getting to the highest item level ASAP before the first weekly reset, that is the way that you enjoy playing the game, then of course go ahead, do the thing. I just think the general advice that has been flowing around towards the casual player is kind of silly. It's gonna burn more people out on the game in the long run than that it's gonna do them well, because the real game, as people have been saying, does start at level 50, but if somebody can get to level 50 after 30 hours of enjoying themselves, that is better than somebody who has spent 12 hours just doing busy work so that they could get to level 50. At least in my opinion. Of course, once again, opinions differ on this, which is completely fine. Now that we got that rant out of the way, which I have had multiple times on stream, which is the reason why I'm doing it again right here, so I can just say I've said my piece about this, I wanted to also talk about the launch state and the issues that we have run into. There have been a couple of issues at launch, especially because the free-to-play launch did get delayed by a couple of hours as well, which was very unfortunate for people like myself who are European rather, because European players ended up having maintenance during prime time, which which really sucks, especially considering it was the first day of the game being out. That did, of course, then result in the Saturday being extremely popular and the Indie Saturday being just enormously successful, to the point that the Central European servers were absolutely exploding, and it's also the reason why, as I'm recording this, there's another maintenance going on at kind of a shitty time, Sunday 8 a.m. till 11 a.m., where they are laying the groundwork to make the server capacities bigger. Hey, morning of Monday, Loki here. Yeah, apparently they just announced that there is going to be new European servers in the form of a new region. There's going to be a second European region where people are going to be able to make their characters and hopefully experience less queues. Of course, this brings a whole lot of other issues with it, including the one that it is all about not being able to do cross-region, cross-server with those players, of course, because it is a separate region. There are also upsides to it, like there is going to be less of a hardcore kind of player base on there, which some people could enjoy. But yeah, keep in mind the rest of this video was recorded yesterday before they announced this, so I did not know that at the time. So continue the video, because they really have seen and they've looked at all the European servers and the queues, and they were like, well, that is not that great of an experience. There are some massive freaking queues, and we should probably do something about that. Which, yes, having a 20,000 player queue, having somebody who needs to sit in a queue for literally 8+ hours so that they can hopefully play later on tonight, is not the best experience. Of course, I personally kind of expected it during launch weekend, and I have been logging in early in the morning, so I don't run into this same issue, but yeah, it would still be nice, especially seeing how popular the game is, especially in Central Europe, if they extended the server capacities by a little bit. The other thing that has been kind of annoying, which I mean they have kind of solved in, I personally think, a nice way at this point, is the whole character creation thing. So they initially decided to lock the character creation down on certain servers because those specific servers were just too busy, including the one that I had announced to my community as the one that I was going to be playing on and that I'd hoped that people would be able to join on when the free-to-play launch rolled around, which is Zinnerville. It turns out that I made the worst decision because apparently Zinnerville became the most popular server right next to the one that's like the European content creator one. So oops. But then they said that the server was being locked down. Now, usually in other MMORPGs, when a server is locked down, that does suck a little bit, but at least there are server transfers later down the line so that you can then jump onto the server with server transfer, and usually they do server transfers for free, and they clear that up, you know, a couple of weeks after launch. Not great, but alright. And there is also a lot in Lost Ark that you can do cross-server in the same region. You can do dungeons, you can do raids, I'm pretty sure you can do ranked PvP, you can matchmake with other players from other servers within the same region, and that way you can still enjoy the game together, but you wouldn't be able to do open world stuff, and you wouldn't be able to do life skilling, and you wouldn't be able to do the open world quests, the weekly, the dailies, you wouldn't be able to join the same guilds. So there's a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to do. Now, that sucks even still for a couple of weeks, until you realize that Lost Ark doesn't have any functionality in place for you to be able to change server. Not on a per character basis and not on a per roster basis either. So essentially, by locking the character creation for new players onto those older servers, the founder pack servers, so to say, it essentially meant that we're gonna split players up forever, which obviously really sucked. So, you know, even for myself, I had to look around, and then I decided, okay, well, we're gonna go into this other server, even though I had just spent already 30 hours onto Zinnerville. We're gonna jump into this other server, and we're just gonna make our character there. Now, roll around the launch of the free-to-play launch, and that server is locked down as well. So it seems like Amazon Games was trying very hard to not have people play together with their friends, which obviously fucking sucks. Now, they have made some changes like a couple of hours after this, where they essentially decided to do the Final Fantasy XIV way of doing the queues, or the character creation, where if there are queues and if the server is full, then you are not allowed to make a character on there, and if there isn't a queue and if the server is available, so usually during the middle of the night, you can just make a character on that. It's still not great. It obviously still means that most people wouldn't be able to make a character on a certain server unless they set an alarm clock at 4 a.m. in the morning, but at least least it's something. You know, I personally put an alarm clock at 4 a.m. in the morning when I wanted to make my character in my Final Fantasy XIV server as well initially, so I know the struggle. It sucks, but it's something. I think now they've even gone one further step beyond. They haven't publicly announced that. They've only announced that they're like watching the player base and they're watching the queues, and they are gonna lock the servers again flexibly, so if it gets too busy, they're gonna still lock down the character creation. But it does seem like they kind of just completely lifted the character creation restrictions, and they essentially are just saying, well, especially in Europe, European servers, every single European server has massive queues, so you know, we can put this character creation limit in, but there's gonna be a queue of 10 to 20,000 people on every single server during busy times anyway, so it doesn't have any point. There's no point. We'd rather have people be able to actually make a character on their friend's server, which is good to see, but there are already some of my friends who made a character on another server, and now they have to make this tough decision of like, well, I already put a couple of hours into that one, and I claimed my pet on that character, and, you know, all that stuff obviously doesn't carry over, which sucks. They do give out the founder packs again in an untradeable form, which is good, but you know, if you claim Twitch viewing rewards, you're not gonna get those again, which means you're gonna be missing out on those, which sucks. That's an extra pet. That's a cosmetic hat. You're missing out on those just because initially the whole server situation is happening. So it all just kinda isn't that great as a start, but at least they're working on it, and especially with the server capacity increased maintenance that we're having right now, hopefully this stuff will be resolved, and we will see how necessary this is as we go into the coming week when the server capacity or the server population obviously spreads out a little bit and obviously becomes lower. You know, I'm not saying that the game is gonna die next week, but the reality is right now there's all this hype and there's 1.3 million players and everything is super mega busy, and then obviously as the week rolls on, some people realize the game isn't for them, some people only downloaded it because they wanted to annoy their favorite streamer, you know, like there's all those types of players who are obviously going to leave the game, and the queues will become a lot more okay. And of course right now we're also seeing the weekend queue as well, which makes things seem even worse when the majority of the days there's obviously going to be less of a queue during weekdays. Anyway guys, this was essentially my video quickly checking in on you guys because I know I've kind of gone missing for a little bit if you haven't been on my streams. I have been live pretty much every single day playing Lost Ark, and I've been hugely enjoying it, so if you haven't checked out on that, twitch.tv/LokiFM, where you can see a person going insane, slowly descending into the grinding madness of a Korean MMORPG. Anyway, let me know how you've been enjoying Lost Ark, or if you have been enjoying Lost Ark, or if it's not your type of game at all, and if you are saddened that this is the game that has become successful. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, have a very wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye! Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the YouTubes!